overlapping graft until you get a leak-free graft. So it came to be known as the Sydney trombone technique, and hence the trombone. And it was revolutionary. It made endovascular AAA treatment possible. All AAA grafts sold today are modular overlapping grafts. All the major companies do that. And Dr. White and Dr. Yu were pretty sophisticated. So they obtained a patent. They realized they had an important invention. And they obtained a patent. And here is their patent. And if you look at it, there's a lot of language in it, but a lot of it is fluff, which is a smart patent attorney trying to delude the patent office into thinking that I'm giving you a lot of stuff, but really not very much. It just really is two overlapping grafts. It's really a very, very good claim. So we'll come back to this for the rest of the story. Okay, so back to what happened with the cake decorating. Now, normally I will ask, looking at this claim, do you see something here that went wrong, that was wrong with this claim? This is really a great invention. So we litigated this patent. We were the defendants against the patentee. The problem with this patent is step D, the screen printing step. So the entire technology over here was making this thin edible sheet that was soluble in fat. This fourth step was kind of irrelevant. It didn't matter. What my client did was, my client made the edible sheet. He took a he took an inkjet printer, put in edible inks into the cartridge, and then printed, scanned an image, printed an image onto the sheet, and then put it on the cakes. So we didn't screen print. And the district court over here in LA and the federal circuit in DC, they agreed with us. They said you don't screen print, so you don't infringe. So this is the kind of thing that can go wrong. Now, a lot of the blame for this lies squarely with the patent attorney. There is no doubt that this guy was an idiot. There is, it's a cardinal sin to include limitations which you don't need to get your patent allowed. You need to strip out every limitation. How do you avoid infringement of a patent? Is not to have a limitation. Okay, I have 3 minutes. I need to go faster than this. So anyway, but here is my message. I think it was Acme, the food company, it was incumbent upon them to tell the attorney what the invention is. It is really important. So it is the attorney will be, dead and gone. But your invention you'll be paying for it later. So, think about it. Make sure that you understand it and you communicate it to your attorney. So what happened with the trombone? So the trombone is a great claim because I drafted it. So of course it was great. But what happened? We litigated this patent. We sued all the major companies. We owned the rights to this patent. So we sued all the major companies, Medtronic, Gold, Cook. And we're looking at $200 million in damages. One of them settled, fortunately. So we did recover a lot of money. But the other two litigated all the way to the federal circuit. And the problem with we lost. So the court in Northern California said that the patent was not infringed, and the federal circuit agreed with the court. And the reason for that was we had a great claim. But in our specification, the rest of the patent, we didn't talk about overlappings. So, you look at this invention, it's an invention that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And the patent specification is 4 columns long. Okay, it was an Australian attorney, so that explains a lot. But this is ridiculous. You cannot have such an important medical innovation which revolutionized treatment with a patent that is so flimsy. So it did not talk about overlapping, it did not talk about modular grafts, none of that stuff. It talked about self-expanding stents, how that's the known art. All the competitors were using self-expanding stents. So the court said, well, your invention, it doesn't matter what the claims say. Your invention really is an invention which does not have a self-expanding stent. So again, the message over here is, these are the things to watch out for. You have to, if you really have a great invention, so patenting is not egalitarian. If you have a gigantic corporation doing all this, it's a totally different game. But if you're talking about individual small innovators, startups, if you have a great invention, if you believe in it, you have to really think about how to protect it. You need to communicate your invention, get good attorneys, pay the money. It's worth it. Now, if you don't think you have a great invention, you really need to assess how great your invention is. If it's not that good, it's a different thing altogether. But, so I will stop over there.
Our next presenter is one of our own, Dr. Neil Martin. He's chairman of the Department of Neurosurgery at UCLA. Dr. Martin has worked in UCLA neurosurgery for more than 2 decades and has an active surgical practice. He specializes in the research and treatment of neurovascular disorders and has published more than 200 articles on his research. His research program has been funded by the National Institutes of Health for 20 years. In addition to his post as the chair of the UCLA Department of Neurosurgery, Dr. Martin serves as director of the Aneurysm and AVM program. He is co-director of the Brain Injury Research Center as well as the UCLA Stroke Center. He received his B.A. from Yale, his M.D. from the Medical College of Virginia, and completed his residency at UCSF. Dr. Martin currently has 13 patents pending and has patented an innovative suite of software applications for clinical informatics. Dr. Martin will share with us pointers from the field, such as translating research and clinical knowledge into products and bootstrapping a company. It is a pleasure to welcome you, Dr. Martin.
If I had more than 15 minutes, I could tell you how I made every single mistake that the first 2 speakers talked about avoiding. But what I really want to talk about is the advantage that everyone who works in an environment like this medical center has. And I'm speaking just because I'm one of the people who's been involved in IP and patenting and startups recently. I see in this crowd there's some very heavy-duty innovators, and we have many of them at UCLA, and too many to mention here. But we have a rich tradition of innovation, and innovation grows out of certain things. It grows out of an intimate knowledge of what the key problems are, key problems to be solved, be that to put Winnie the Pooh on a cake, or how to deliver information to doctors so they can make better, faster, more effective clinical decisions, the area that we work in. It requires a lot of experience on the front line with trying new things. And that's where an academic medical center is extremely valuable, because the same kind of mindset required to get an NIH grant in some ways is required to get a patent and to get an original idea that is viable. You have to have something unique, creative, significant. And then you have to know exactly how to play this game that the